Hello, fellow Gwent players. As you can see, your boy Mr. Hobla1 is on holidays. So that's why you haven't seen me in the last few days. I finished all my school stuff, so after this video and after this holiday, I am fully going to be focusing on this YouTube channel and giving you guys the content that you need. And I also didn't want to leave you a whole week without any content while I didn't have anything else to do. So I'm gonna give you a custom card review. Pretty simple to do with this setup. Playing Gwent is gonna be quite difficult with this since the laptop is quite weak and editing all these nonsensical things. I will probably use this setup to film a few intros though, so be sure to check those out when they come out later on. So yeah, let's check out your custom cards and see what you guys gave me this time. Alright, so the first one is Leshen. Now, Leshen, this card will not exist. It is already on the leader Force of Nature. But let's read what this does. The first time an allied Death Wish triggers, each turn damage a random enemy unit by 1. Devotion on allied turn start, spawn a Deadly Nightshade in this row. Deadly Nightshade is a Death Wish that damages the highest enemy unit by 1. Now, I actually really like this. This is pretty good. The problem is, it's kind of slow. You play a 6, and then the opponent can answer it, and then you have to wait basically a turn to wait for this Deadly Nightshade to come onto your field. So I'm guessing this doesn't have a deploy ability with triggering the Deadly Nightshade, so I think this is kind of underwhelming. It's a bit slow. It might need a deploy ability, like spawn 2 Nightshades adjacent to it or something like that, where, you know, if you have a few consumes left, you can just trigger those and eat the Nightshade plants and then sort of get some value out of the Leshen. But I think the card's actually kind of interesting. I would like more Death Wish synergy or just stronger Death Wish effects in general in the game right now. It just feels a bit underwhelming, the whole archetype. I mean, you have one really good one in Dettlaff High Vampire and the Foglets and Maruna and Manticore, but I would like some more creative ones as well. I mean, they're not bad, but you can have some more interesting ones, especially in the bronze package. Next up, we have Eredin Breck Glass. Now, we already have a Eredin card, but you can never have too many Eredins in the game. Deploy damage the highest enemy unit by 2. Devotion, create and play a bronze Wild Hunt unit from your starting deck. Okay, so this is actually starting deck, so you can actually make this quite consistent with maybe something like Frost synergy, because all the other sort of bronze cards in the Wild Hunt archetype aren't really that Frost synergetic. They're more dominance based. So you could get like a lot of Naglfar's crews with this. Or you could just get a Wild Hunt Hound, which could also be quite useful. I think for 12 provisions, this card's just insanely good. Like, it plays for 10 on deploy, unless obviously the highest unit has armor, then just plays for 8. But it still creates a unit, and you can make that really consistent by just having 3 Wild Hunt cards in your deck. So this is basically like a Arturius Vigo on steroids, I would say. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. This card's actually just insane. I mean, you would just put this in every sort of monster deck, even if you don't run Wild Hunt with it. Alright, next up is Unseen Elder. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of the monster leader cards coming up now. I haven't looked at the bottom ones, but I'm guessing there's gonna be more monster leaders or like ex-monster leaders coming as cards. So what does Unseen Elder do? Deploy, give 3 enemies bleeding for 1 turn. Devotion, summon a bronze vampire from your deck to this row. This card is absolutely friggin' nuts. Wow, this is actually insane. Because bleeding goes through armor, so this will always be a 9. I mean, you do need 3 units. I mean, yeah, I guess some Veil units kind of disrupt this a little bit. But Devotion, summon a bronze vampire from your deck to this row is absolutely bonkers, honestly. Like, seriously, this is actually insane. Like, you just play this with like a Garcane or like even a Necarat is absolutely bonkers with this. Like, yeah, those are pretty much the 2 vampires I would want to play or find with this card for sure. So it would probably help the vampire archetype quite a bit though. So definitely something interesting for sure. This is actually, I mean, it's an auto-include card in vampires, right? Like, you don't really, like, there's not really that many high provision units you need to run in that deck anyway, because you can't play like vampires with Ciri Nova. So if you like drop Ciri Nova and add like more consistent sort of high provision cards, it does get a lot, this card obviously gets a lot better, but vampires right now might need this card to sort of be more viable, and yeah, it would definitely become more viable if they had a card like this. Alright, next up is the Arrakis Queen. Now, I think this was the last one of the submitted monster leaders. Deploy, spawn 2 drones on either side of this unit. Devotion, boost all allied drones by 1. I like this. This is actually very good. So, it plays for what? 8? But then it boosts all your drones. It puts 3 units on your side of the field, which is actually quite valuable. This is actually a very valuable aspect of the card, the fact that that already puts 3 units on your side. It's basically like the Arrakis Behemoth on huge steroids, and it would just honestly make like Swarm really, really viable. In general, I feel like Swarm right now is kind of underrated. It is quite good against things like Northern Realms, which you can just bleed with all your like Swarm cards and so on and so forth, and not give them anything too big to sort of punish with things like Anseis. But yeah, definitely this card would definitely see play in a lot of decks that run sort of the Swarm synergy. It doesn't even have to be in Arrakis Swarm as this leader. You could just play this with the Overwhelming Hunger list that also plays the Night Wraith, no, the Plague Maiden, sorry, with Plague Maiden. That deck just like is such a good 2-0 deck, and this would just give this more power. And you would probably like drop Triss, because Triss is kind of awkward in the deck sometimes. Alright, here we have another Alzur card. I think I reviewed this in the first episode, but I think Alzur is quite a popular character, and I do hope that there will be an Alzur card in the game soon, because a lot of, spells in the game do have his name patent on it, so maybe we would like to see the face behind the magic. So let's see what Alzur does. So deploy, create, and play a spell from any faction. This is garbage. This is really bad. Yeah, for 14 provisions, no one would ever play this. Wow, this is really, really bad. Yeah, for 14, no one's playing that for 14. Like, no one's playing Aguara, and that's already really RNG reliant. And like, this kind of blocks out all the devotion as well. Like, there's some devotion spells as well these days. Is it like, can you choose which faction? Because that would be a little bit more interesting. If you could actually choose the faction of which spells you play, this card actually is a bit nuts. But as it stands right now, you're just given a poll of one faction, and it's random which faction that is. Like, the wording on this card needs to be a bit different. Like, choose a faction and then create a spell from that faction. That would make the card actually kind of nuts. Like, you could just play this in any faction then and just create like extra spells. Like, this would be insane with Symbiosis. Like, you would just drop Triss for this. But the 14 provisions does make it a bit less appealing for sure. Like, I think 14 provisions is a bit too much. Maybe this could be like a 12 or like an 11 even. I think 14 is just way overcosted. Like, way, way, way overcosted. Like, why would you not just play Triss instead of this, which gives you a bit more consistency than this, right? So yeah, at 14 I don't think this is going to be viable. I think a few provision changes and maybe a change of text would make the card quite interesting. Alright, next up is Vai. On ally turn start, damage the highest enemy by 1. If you have Barricade or Dominance, damage them by 2 instead. If you have both, damage them by 3 instead. Whenever you play an Insectoid, gain 1 armor. Wow, that's scary. So this already plays like as an 8. I mean, it should just play as an 8 if you think about it. It's a really interesting engine because it's an engine that actually works best with monsters. So I actually really like the fact that this is a monster card. It's quite easily disruptible, but it still sort of has the synergy that even if it stays alive, it still deals 1 damage to the highest unit. It's a really interesting card, and as I said, it is actually kind of good with monsters, since all the other factions, if Nilfgaard had a card like this, it would be absolutely busted. If, say, something like a Scoia'tael or like a Northern Realms had a card like this, it would be absolutely busted. But in monsters, I don't think it's too bad. It would put the faction a bit higher than it should be, but protecting this card can definitely be something, since monsters also doesn't have that much sort of armor synergy for you to give this armor. So you might have to sort of work in the deck builder for this card as well, which would make the card a bit more awkward. So I think that this card is actually best suited in monsters, and I really like the design of it. I actually am really, really happy with this one. This is actually a really cool card. Now, not if it's balanced or not, I don't know. It might seem a bit broken, dealing 3 damage every turn. Seems kind of ridiculous, but I really like it still. Like, it's a pretty cool card, and the fact that it is in monsters makes the card sort of not too broken, if you know what I'm saying. Alright, here we have Algul. Deploy, damage an enemy unit by 2, Deathblow, boost self by 2. Okay, this is pretty cool. It's harder to get off these days, especially with monsters. Yeah, this is kind of bad in monsters though. Like, the previous card works in monsters because it's kind of unconditional. Monsters doesn't have that much damage to start with. You would have to play like bad cards, like Wyvern, to set this up or something like that. So yeah, I'll go, like, this card's, yeah, it's like, it's a 4 deal 3, it's a 7, and that's not even that good. Yeah, that's really bad. That's like a 7 for 5. Like, the power creep makes this card really bad, which is kind of funny and sad at the same time. But yeah, the power creep makes this card pretty much unplayable. Like, I don't think people actually would have played this card anyway. Like, it doesn't seem that strong to begin with. Then we have Bloodzuiger. Don't know how to pronounce that one, but I'll just take it. Deploy. Drain an enemy unit by its bleeding duration. Now, this card is kind of bad. And the reason is that it removes the bleeding, right? So it just removes the bleeding, and it gets the boost itself. That's cool and all, but I feel like removing the bleeding kind of takes away. It's like anti-synergetic. The card kind of doesn't synergize with itself. Like, Garcane had this ability where it would damage a unit by its bleeding duration, and no one played that card because it just wasn't good. Because why would you give 3 bleeding to a unit just to damage it by 3 in the next turn? It doesn't really make sense. Plus, you're also losing a point off of the damage the turn after your opponent plays a card because he then loses a bleeding, right? So I feel like this card is just kind of bad. It doesn't work as 1 power. It has the same design as Heim. I think that's where you base this off. But it doesn't really work the same way as Heim does, because even Heim isn't that great of a card. And this is definitely not a good card as well, because it's anti-synergy with bleeding. It would have to bleed just boost self by the amounts a unit has bleeding, and it would have to be a bronze card. You would have to play this as a 2 of, honestly. It doesn't seem that good as a gold card, to be fair. Alright, here we have Drowned Dead. Deploy damage an enemy unit by 1. Death Blow, summon all copies of this unit from your deck. Now, this is kind of funny because this card would seem awful with this current meta where all the thinning cards have been put to 4. This is like a submission. I don't know when this is actually from. Let me just see real quick. This is a submission from July, and that just shows how much the game has changed in that time. Like, the whole power creep, the whole 7 for 5 is just bad. This card's bad. Like, this would have to just be a 5 provision card at this point. It seems kind of weak. Like, with the whole, like, power creep that's happened these past, like, 3 months or so. It's kind of funny, but yeah, it is just what it is, right? This is just like, this card would be unplayable nowadays. It would have to be 5 provisions to even see any play. At 5 provisions, it's obviously kind of decent. But even then, it's not that great, since Monsters has quite the struggle against dealing death blows. Death blows are quite a weakness within the monster faction. Then we have Vodyanoi Priest, who is a beast. I didn't know these things were beasts, but okay. Deploy Purify an allied unit, then boost self by 1 for each status removed. I can see this being a 4P card. As a 4P card, this actually would be kind of busted. Like, you play this as a 1-off. Yeah, this should be like a 4P card. And it's a neutral. I think this would work better this would definitely work better in monsters. But if it's a neutral, it's actually really good as a neutral. If Pellar is 5P, I guess this has to be 5P as well. Like, this is just a better Pellar. Like, why would you ever play Pellar when this card exists, right? Yeah, Pellar's kind of power crept, right? Yeah, no one's gonna play Pellar anymore. It's kind of sad, but yeah, this card, I mean, I guess it has to be 5 if Pellar is 5. And it's just a better Pellar at that point, so it's like, this has removed Pellar from the game. Like, it would have to be a faction-specific card, probably, not a neutral. Alright, here we have Elder's Call, Organic. Give an enemy unit bleeding for 2 turns, then play a vampire from your deck. Okay, so this is like Raiding Fleet, but it's not limited to bronzes, which is actually kind of interesting. You do have to sort of think about your plays there, but it is this card's actually insane, though. Like, this is a really, really good card. Like, organics actually are not bad with the vampire archetype, because you can play sort of like more control-oriented stuff. And this card's actually really good, right? Yeah, this card's just good. Then play, because oh my god, you get to choose as well. Wow, this card's insane. This card's actually nuts. Like, this just gives you Oriana. Like, you have so many ways to just get Oriana out of your deck, which is one of the few struggles of that deck, is just trying to get Oriana into your hand. And then you have Oriana 100% with this card, pretty much. Like, you have 3 ways of getting it. You have it through Wispa's Tribute, Elder's Call, and Oriana herself, right? So that's pretty insane. Yeah, this card would just be auto-include in vampire decks. There's really no doubt about it. Next up, we have Regis Pact. Deploy damage an enemy unit by 4. Deathblow, summon Deathlaf Pact from your deck to this row. If this card is summoned, boost the lowest ally by 2. So I have to look at Deathlaf Pact, I guess, for this. Summon Deathlaf Pact from your deck to this row. If this card is summoned, boost the lowest ally. Okay, so this is like okay. So this second text, the if this card is summoned, boost the lowest ally by 2, should be put on the deploy or like below the deploy, or so. I don't know. This is kind of weird. It's like I don't know where to place this as the text because it like has nothing to do with the first two. So I'm guessing if Detlef summons the Regis, then this Regis boosts the lowest ally by 2. So it just plays for an 8 if it's summoned. So let's look at the points here. This plays for 10 alone, which is insane. And it puts out Detlef. So let's look at Detlef. So Detlef pack, damage an enemy unit by 4. Deathblow summon Regis packed from your deck to this row. If this card is summoned, damage the highest unit by 2. Okay, so it's basically playing for what? It plays for 10 plus 6 plus 2. It plays for 18 for 22 provisions. But it thins your... No. Like, you could say it thins your deck, but it literally thins your deck. Like, it thins out one of your highest provision cards. Which, honestly, is something you don't really want. When you want to thin, you want to thin on, like, low cost. Like, thinning, like, playing Decree for a high provision unit is efficient thinning. And this doesn't sort of work the same way, because you're playing 2 quite powerful cards in 1. I would rather have this effect twice than have it once with extra points. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Like, I don't know if this is going to be included in decks. It just feels a bit clunky. Like, your upper provisions are just very important. And then you add these cards. Like, they're nuts in the short round. But even then, they're not too great in the short round. I mean, yeah, they're 18 points, which is absolutely bonkers. But you still need to trigger the death blow, right? You still do need to trigger that. And that's the probably biggest issue with this deck, because this thins out a really powerful card out of your deck that you might want to play separately, but you can't. And now you've just like played 22 provisions in 1 turn, which seems kind of iffy, honestly. I don't know. I don't really like this. This feels kind of weak, honestly. All right, here we have Bruxa of Corvo Bianco. Spying. On enemy turn end, give adjacent units bleeding for 2 turns. If they're already bleeding, damage them by 1 instead. This seems interesting, but it really is kind of bad, right? Like, it plays so... Oh, wow, this is really bad. Like, when you think about it, this card is actually terrible, right? On enemy turn end as well. Wait, it plays for -3, then you have to wait a turn, and then it plays for -1, and then it plays for 1 that removes bleeding because it lowers the power of the units next to it. This card's terrible. This card is garbage. Useless. No one would ever play this card. This card's terrible. The Beast of Beauclair. Order melee. Give an enemy unit bleeding for 3 turns, then damage it by 1. Cooldown 3. Whenever a bleeding enemy dies, boost self by 1 and decrease cooldown by 1. Ooh, this is actually a lot cooler. This is good. I like this one. This one's pretty decent, I would say. So yeah, you just like have a nice little decent engine. You play this with Carapace. I don't even think you would have played this with Bloodsend. Like, the card itself is pretty insane, right? Yeah, with Carapace, this doesn't seem too bad as a sort of engine that just destroys units. It feels kind of ridiculous, honestly. 3-turn bleeding, already plays for 9. Oh, it doesn't actually have Zeal. I thought it actually had Zeal. The cooldown 3 is kind of awkward, but paired up with Gale, it's pretty nuts. Paired up with pretty much just any damage. Like, you just damage, like, bleeding units, because this card just keeps giving bleeding, right? But, yeah, like, this card's not terrible. Like, it's actually pretty funny. It's actually okay. I would probably see people playing this. Alright, here we have a Northern Realms card. I think the first one here. I think the first one yet. So, Exiled Enchantress, Mage Curse. Deploy if you control at least 3 cursed units. Spawn and play Forbidden Magic. Oh, wow, I like this one. It's a very bad card, but I like the idea of it. Maybe if it's 2 cursed units instead of 3, it becomes a bit more viable. But it's a cool card. It's definitely an interesting design, as it does play for 9 points if the condition is met. Plus it gives you a Revenant. But there are quite a few conditions to be met here. But with Northern Realms, it's actually quite simple to set this up. It just needs a few more cursed units, Northern Realms. I feel like there's not enough sort of good cursed units, and I hope that's going to be expanded on in the next expansion. Hopefully. If not, then it's probably just going to be more nonsensical soldiers that just play for more points. But that's fine, you know. Making decks more viable or like archetypes more viable is also fine. But I would like to have more mage and cursed synergy. And this card would actually like be perfect for this sort of stuff. Like I really, really like this card actually. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Alright, Withered Skull. Deploy damage an enemy unit by 1 for every cursed ally you have. Well, this is kind of weirdly phrased. Like have in the sense of in your deck, on your board, in your hand. The wording of this card doesn't really help me evaluate it since I don't know what the hell it means. I do rate the text though. Spooky. What the hell does like Alright, next up is Auto Desart. Order melee damage self by 1 and damage an enemy unit by 3. Deathblow, refresh this ability and decrease the damage by 1. Deathwish, spawn a raging werewolf in this row. Is this just like a bad Falibor? I feel like this is just a bad Falibor. Because like, the way the Deathblow is phrased, it just then damages by 2, right? Yeah, this is just a bad Falibor. So, Death Wish. So, if he dies, he spawns a Raging Werewolf in this row. Okay, let's look at Raging Werewolf, I guess. Well, we're on the next card here. You're wondering where the Raging Werewolf is. Well, so am I. I don't know where it is. I didn't find it. I scrolled down quite a bit. So, I didn't find anything. No Raging Werewolf. So, there's no way I can evaluate the card if I don't know what Raging Werewolf is. So, sorry about that, but, you know, what am I going to do if there's nothing to do it with, you know? So, Haunted Veteran, melee. On round start, if you do not control any Wandering Spirits, spawn 1 on this row. So, Wandering Spirit's just a curse token. So, he plays for 4. He's very easily dealt with. This guy is very, very easily dealt with. He would have to be like 5 or so. Like, at 5 power, this card seems okay. Because, like, he just plays for 4, right? Like, because, like, you spawn 1 Wandering Spirit, and then you control a Wandering Spirit. And then it just played for 4. For 5. That's like the worst card in the game, right? Wait, did I just discover the worst card in the entire game? I think so. It seems like it. Like, yeah, I'm guessing you went for the Revenant synergy. But that's terrible. If you don't have Revenants, this is terrible. There's nothing you can do with this card without Revenants. Like, it's useless. I mean, I don't know what other cards you have for me, but this is terrible. This is really bad. Okay, then we have Banshee. This one's a Northern Realms one, though. Deploy if you control at least 3 cursed units. Boost self by 3. If you control at least 6, also damage the highest enemy by 3. If you control at least 9, also damage all enemy units by 1. Okay, this is cool. I like this kind of design. This is actually a really, really cool design. It's quite conditional, but say, for example, you control at least 6. Like, the idea is to, like, have at least 6 of these cursed units on your side of the field. So this just plays for, what? It plays for 6 plus 3, so it plays for 9, which isn't terrible. But when you control 9, it's actually just an overkill. So this is definitely a meme card, but it's a meme card that might see a very good purpose in certain decks. Like, the decks that it plays in have to play it, like, because they're going all out with this Banshee, I think. And it's a pretty decent finisher, if you ask me. Like, it is definitely a good finisher for, like, a long round. Like, round 1, this card might just be insane. Like, if you want round control and you can have, like, Banshee as a finisher in round 1 to tell your opponent to leave, or, like, to sort of start winning on even after that, it could be quite devastating, this card. But I think, as it is right now, like, spawning 9 Spectres seems a bit difficult. I mean, Draug probably helps a lot with it, but even then, you need a long enough round for that to be the case. Alright, here we have Spectral Charge. A Warfare. Move an ally to the other row, then damage an enemy unit by 4. If you control a Spectre, damage it by 6 instead. Okay, but, I mean, moving allies could be quite useful at times. Siege Ladder does sometimes see itself played as a one-off, but then damaging an enemy by 6 is quite useful. Controlling 1 Spectre should be easy enough for you to play this card, right? And this is what's kind of like lacking in these last expansion that we had for Gwent, is sort of these like cards that just work with one archetype and one archetype only. A lot of the cards that they've printed recently have just been good cards, right? And I get the sense of, you know, you want to have good cards in the card game, right? But if there's like no archetypes and synergies, deck building becomes a lot more stale. And this is something that's slowly starting to creep in. It's always been sort of a case in Gwent that all of the meta decks just play the best cards and like sort of slight synergies. If the cards are good and have synergies, that's just an upside. But if the card's just good itself, just play the card, right? And cards like this are kind of lacking, I feel like. Cards that are like, okay, I will not play this in a soldier deck. I will not play this in a machine deck, but I will definitely play this in a Spectre deck. And I feel like that's kind of missing in Gwent right now. But yeah, like cards like this are kind of important for this game, but they're not willing to print cards like these, I think. So yeah, who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just keep printing just bonkers cards for us to, you know, always be like, whoa, this card's insane, and just like play it in the next expansion and yeah, just be done with it. Full Moon. Oh wait, here's the Raging Werewolf. Oh, I'm so sorry guys, but I missed the Raging Werewolf. Now I see it. Okay, so Full Moon, destroy a gold human ally, then spawn 2 Raging Werewolves and summon them to the same row. So this is clearly a card that wants to work with Ronvit. This card's insane with Ronvit. It's like a 7 with Ronvit. But what do the Raging Werewolves do? Order, damage an enemy unit by 1. Deathblow, refresh this ability. Yes! That's a good card. I like this card. Wow, that's a really interesting card, actually. This is really dope. I really like this one. That's a nice card. It's cool design for sure. It's a beast as well. Yeah, this is really cool. You can play this in like multiple decks actually. You can play this in like Northern Realms where it's quite easy for you to kill something like Ronvit and then like set up things like Revenants or just damage and like sort of control and like keeping the enemy stuff like lower. And this also works with like monsters really well. Like neutral cards that work with more than 2 decks are really good. A lot of neutral cards work with every deck like Oneiromancy or just work with 1 deck. So yeah, that's Full Moon for you. Pretty cool card. I really like the design of this actually. So now we can actually evaluate this card as well, now that we know what the Raging Werewolf is. So yeah, this card's bad, man. Like if it had Zeal, it would be good, right? Like Order. You need Zeal. Give this card Zeal, and I think it's okay. It's not even that great with Zeal. It's a good like with Zeal. It's a good removal tool, right? Because like yeah, the opponent kills it. And he gives you the Raging Werewolf, but isn't that kind of what he wants? Because this card helps you set up more damage stuff like Falibor or Philippa. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, this card's kind of weird. It's a kind of bad card, honestly. Heresy, Insectoid, melee. On ally turn, poison the lowest enemy unit. Bruh. That's kind of nuts. Yeah, that's kind of toxic. That's really toxic. At 8 provisions... 5 power, 3 armor. The only thing that kills this like instantly is Rock Slide. Or like Heat Wave. Anything else is kind of struggling with that. Whoa, this is kind of nuts. This card's insane, bro. Like you can play a lot of poison with this. This card's kind of scary. This kind of card shouldn't exist in the game. Like people will hate this card. Actually hate it. Like people will start teching Rock Slide and Heat Wave just for this card, I would say. I mean, it's kind of easy to play around it in some decks, but not all decks, honestly. Some decks are going to be struggling a lot against this card. Because, like, even then, it's like a... It's a pretty nutty engine. Like, even if it doesn't kill anything, it forces your opponent to play really awkwardly. Like, incredibly awkward. Because your opponent will play a unit turn 1, and you play this card turn 1 for yourself, he will have to use some sort of spell or like an Ansace to kill it. And oh, that's so awkward. Yeah, this card's really disgusting. Like this card's insane when you think about it. Not sure if it's good, but it's definitely not a card you kind of want in any deck, sort of. Like a Poison Engine just seems kind of bad and just kind of toxic, pun intended. Venomous Aracas. Deploy poison an enemy unit of power less than or equal to the amount of insectoid allies. So I don't know why this is a neutral. This makes no sense as a neutral. It's kind of bad, right? This is terrible. Just play Cobra, right? What's the point of this card? Like, why would I want to play this card? This makes no sense. Like, why would I want to poison something lower than... Why? What's the point of this card? This card makes no sense. The card's kind of trash. You have to set this card up, and your max amount of poison is actually 18, right? Because 9 and 9. And you'd have to have a full board of insectoids. Yeah, this is kind of awkward. This is super awkward. You wouldn't play... You just play Cobra, right? At 5 provisions. Screw the 1 point and just get consistency, right? Like, the card makes no sense. I mean, if it was monsters, it would kind of make sense, but even then it kind of sucks. Cultivated Arachispore. Deploy melee. Damage an enemy unit on the melee row by 2. Deploy ranged. Spawn and play a Arachispore pod. So this is a bronze card. Arachispore pod is a spying token, which on turn end destroys self, Deathwish poison the lowest unit in this row. Okay, so we're working with like monster poison. And so far all these cards have been kind of nuts. All these poison cards seem pretty scary. Like at 5p, this card's pretty crazy, right? This is like a Raw Tosser, isn't it? Yeah, this is a Raw Tosser. This is kind of a worse Raw Tosser, but also kind of a more consistent Raw Tosser, isn't it? Yeah, it pretty much just is a worse Raw Tosser, I'd say. Because like Monsters doesn't have Thirsty Dame, which synergizes with anything here. So you're just playing like for poison without any synergy for poison. You're just playing for like control. Which could seem okay, but it's you need a card that synergizes with the poison, like Thirsty Dame in Nilfgaard. So maybe there is a card that does that, but I just don't know it yet. Alright, here we have Geralt Firestream. Deploy damage all enemy units on a row by 1, then give them vulnerable. Vulnerable, a status that makes a unit take 2 extra damage the next time it takes targeted damage. Okay, this might seem pretty insane with Dragon's Dream. You play this with Dragon's Dream? Oh my, you play this with Dragon's Dream and you just have the long round. Like, you have an entire row on your... Like, you just... Like, the entire row's gone. Pretty much. Not necessarily gone, but, like, you deal 5 damage to every unit in a row. That's nuts with it. Like, yeah, this is pretty crazy, this card. This is like Zoltan Scoundrel on steroids, isn't it? Yeah, with Dragon's Dream, this is insane, right? Generally, like, weather or, like, random damage as well. Yeah, this card's pretty good. Like, it's not amazing, but it does have some sort of flavor to it, which could make for some interesting decks built around this card, right? Yeah, this is pretty cool. I like this Vulnerable tag, though. Vulnerable is a pretty cool tag. Like, it takes 2 extra damage. Yeah. It just takes 2 extra damage. That's pretty cool. I like that. Pretty cool, like, status. I really like that. Alright, so got myself an Orangina. Not sponsored in any way, but you gotta love some Orangina. So Royal Griffin, deploy, seize a damaged vulnerable enemy unit. Okay. I'm gonna assume the next few cards are gonna be vulnerable cards that work with the vulnerable synergy. This card seems like a pretty broken card, though. Like, it's deploy. It's like Philippa on steroids, right? Like, Philippa needs a setup of coins, right? You need like 9 coins in your bank to have a good Philippa. This, you just need to play vulnerable card, and suddenly everything that the opponent has might get yoinked in the next turn. It doesn't have a ceiling of 9 as well. I mean, and Vatier is an order card. This would have to be an order card, if anything. Like, yeah, it has to be a damaged unit, which does kind of add to like the fact that it's not that broken as you might think it is. But it's still kind of broken, to be honest. Like, a deploy seize is just nuts, right? Like, any unit, like, as long as it is vulnerable, that seems kind of broken, honestly. And here we have the Vodyanoi Warrior. Deploy, give an enemy unit vulnerable. Yeah, okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, at 6 provisions, I'm not sure it's that good, honestly. Maybe at 5 provisions, 4 power, it's a lot better. The 2 armor makes no sense. I guess that's why you made it 6 provisions, because of the 2 armor. But the 2 armor doesn't make any sense. It's just kind of weird. Just like add it there for no reason. Makes the card actually pretty good at 2 armor. Maybe remove the armor, make it like a 5p card, 4 power, or something like that. Because it fits the design of a lot of other cards with the 4 power, 5 provision. Give a unit certain status idea, right? So yeah, that's what this is. Alright, here we have Draug's Confession. Deploy, damage an enemy unit by 4. Deploy, spawn a Kedweni Revenant on your melee row. Whenever you play, summon or spawn a cursed unit, or a unit transforms into a cursed unit, boosted by 1. Okay, so order transform into a Kedweni Revenant. So, Kedweni Revenant's the 6-point card, right? Yeah, Kedweni's just a 6-point card. So it plays for 10 if you obviously trigger the death blow, and it plays for another 6 when you use the order. So there's already 16, and then it also acts as an engine that boosts all your like cursed units by 1. That's pretty crazy. Like you just play this, right? I mean, it's an artifact which gets removed by Bomb Heaver, but like I think you can play like Machine Siege with this. It doesn't actually seem that bad with machines because you have the ballista to set up things like revenants and so on and so forth. Like, it's actually kind of insane if you think about it. Like, your opponent has to have a heaver for this, otherwise he's kind of screwed. This card's just a lot of points. Like, a lot of points. Alright, here we have Cursed Tome. Order damage an enemy unit by 3, then spawn a Wandering Spirit on your range row. On round start, refresh this ability. So this is a 3... Is this a leader ability? Oh, this is a leader ability. Okay, so you can do this once per round. It's good against bleeding. So it's a deck that is actually... So this is like a leader that works very well against like a bleed in round 2. It's built up the same way as Hidden Cache, kind of. But it feels kind of worse than Hidden... I mean, does it? Dealing 3 damage seems pretty nuts. Every round? Yeah, that actually seems kind of broken, to be fair. Like, 3 damage, dude. That's so good. Like, you win round 1, you play an engine, and you can remove the opponent's engine with your engine, if that's like a Revenant or something like that, or like a Mauler. And then you can play your own engine while removing the opponent's engine. It's pretty crazy. This card's pretty crazy. Like, this leader ability seems pretty nuts. But it has anti-synergy with that one card that spawned the... the Wandering Spirit, so you wouldn't want to play that card. That card just plays for a 3 in that case, which is kind of sad. But yeah, this leader seems pretty nuts. Like, I think it would definitely see a lot of play. Is it as broken as Shield Wall? I wouldn't say so. Like, Shield Wall has too many good synergies in that faction with the whole dual mechanic. It's pretty nuts. Whereas this is just like good, like a good control leader, honestly. Gaunter Contract. If your starting deck contains no duplicates, deploy grant all enemy units doomed. For 10 provisions, I'm actually gonna play this at a deck building cost as well? No way. No one in their right mind would actually play this card, right? What's the point of it? Like, what are you countering? You're countering nothing except for monsters and like big boy synergy, I guess. Is there any other like, I guess Cintrian Royal Guards also kind of struggle with this because then he dooms all the Royal Guards and they can't revive them. But other than that, I don't know, man. This card seems just garbage. Is it just me or nah? This is just bad, right? Oh, it's nuts with Thirsty Dame though. Wait, this is insane with Thirsty Dame. But then you're only allowed to play 1 Thirsty Dame in your entire deck. And maybe like a single ball. Which, that's not really good, boys. That's not really good, boys. Next up we have Koshche. Deploy damage 3 enemies by 1. If played using a spell, damage them by 3 instead. Whoa! Wait, so you play this with like an Alzur's Double Cross, which is just 8 provisions. This plays for 19? 19 for 13? With removal? Bruh, this is actually busted. You just play Alzur's Double Cross, or like Decree, or like Oneiromancy. You just play Oneiromancy. What are you, like, dude, this is insane. What are you doing? I mean, yeah, you're eating up like 26 provisions, but Oneiromancy is a broken card. But it also kind of has a bit of a downside. I mean, it's a 13 for 13 in the worst case scenario. This card just isn't bad. This card has no downside, right? It would have to be like, it shouldn't be as easy to get as something like a Alzur's Double Cross though. Like Alzur's Double Cross into this, like if you're playing this card, you're playing Alzur's Double Cross pretty much 100% of the time. And then you actually might just be able to play like a monster control deck, which is unheard of, but with this, it might actually be possible. Alright, here we have Dagon Worshipper. Oh, everybody wants a bit of Dagon, don't they? Deploy spawn and play Impenetrable Fog, Biting Frost, or Torrential Rain. It lasts 1 round. Okay, so it's like a 5. It's a 5, right? Yeah, it's just a 5. This is bad, right? This is pretty bad. Like, yeah, it has some weather synergies. But it's not really that good, is it? It would have to spawn it for at least 2 turns, right? Yeah, it would have to be 2 turns, I would say. Alright, so all the previous ones I've realized were from one person. So this is, I think, a new one from a new person. And it's a Scoia'tael card. First Scoia'tael card. Let's go. Symbiosis. Deploy boost all treants in hand by 1. Devotion boost all treants in hand, deck, and on the battlefield by 1 instead. Yeah, that's good, right? That's just good, right? It's carryover. It's like a really, really interesting... Yeah, it's really good, right? With critters as well. With your Treant Boar, Oak, Protector. Yeah, you just play all those cards with this, right? And for 8 provision, it seems pretty powerful. Like, on Red Coin, this is pretty insane. Yeah, this is pretty crazy. Or like on a Dry Pass is also pretty good. Yeah, this seems pretty good. You'd have to play Devotion, but I think if you're going to play this card, you're going to play Devotion no matter what, since you want to play Oak Critters for 8. So that's definitely something you want to do. So yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Thorling, Symbiosis. Deploy, spawn 2 base copies of this unit and summon them to this row. Order damage a unit by 1. Wait, so you're spawning 3 of these? So you're playing 3 tempo for 6 provisions. It's like an Eithne. Is this just the better version of Eithne, honestly? I think so, right? This is just the better version of Eithne. But I think it's kind of too weak. Like, the order doesn't do anything. And I think it's just too low tempo. I mean, yeah, the Symbiosis kind of works. But with the new Symbiosis leader, this card kind of becomes sort of useless. Because, like, it's just overkill on Symbiosis. You don't have enough, like, nature cards anyway for this to gain, like, absolute insane value. It does fill your row up. It's quite nice with that. I guess you could play it, like, in a Swarm Scoia'tael deck with, like, elves and stuff. But I don't really think you want to do that as well. So, I mean, at 6 provisions, this seems kind of overcosted. I think you want to just to make a Endrega Larva for Scoia'tael. But the thing with Endrega Larva is it just keeps growing, so it becomes harder to kill. This will always be very easy to kill at 2 strength. So in like 2 turns, you might be able to deal with like all 3 of them, and you not being able to gain full value out of that seems kind of bad, honestly. Alright, here we have Agent Deployment. Spawn an Infiltrator on your melee row, then spawn an Operative on a random enemy row. Devotion, spawn an additional Operative. Wait, so with, okay, like, you're looking at this from a Usurper perspective, right? You play Usurper, you don't touch the Usurper, though. You leave the Usurper be, and this only works with Usurper. Any other card, like, if you've already played Usurper, this plays for, like, a negative, like, a 1-point play. It might even be negative if you run Devotion with it. It's actually a negative, too, right, with Devotion. Jeez, my friends. You guys should not design these cards. This card's god-awful. I mean, it's a super meme. Like, it's the ultra meme. Like, you just... Like, this is just the biggest meme of all time, right? Yeah, this is dumb. This is the dumbest card ever. Like, you can clog your opponent, I guess, which is kind of funny. Yeah, because Nilfgaard Clog seems like the dumbest idea ever, but at the same time, it doesn't seem that bad. But it is pretty stupid, though. Alright, next up we have Betrayal. Seize all enemy operatives and infiltrators. Oh. Whoa. Okay, now everything makes sense. Everything all of a sudden is flashing before my mind. My god, this card seems kind of crazy, right? So also, that counts also Infiltrator, like Mage Infiltrator and Normal Infiltrator. Huh. That's pretty crazy, actually. This card might seem insane, right? This is just me? This would make Infiltrator actually a viable deck, though. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty funny. You could actually go all out Infiltrator with this sort of strategy. Just give your opponent as many Infiltrators as you can. That's actually so cool. Dude, I love this idea. I actually love this idea. This is actually one of the coolest ideas so far. Like, Nilfgaard, that is such a Nilfgaard idea. I mean, I don't think this will ever exist, but if it would be so dope. Like, Infiltrator just gains so many points for being the low tempo play that he is. This is such a cool idea, dude. Whoever made this card is like, this is really cool. Like, it doesn't even need the card beforehand. Like, the card beforehand is actually still bad with this card. But this card itself is actually kind of cool. Like, it actually is kind of cool. Like, you don't have to worry about your Usurper dying. You can just let Usurper, like, float and clog the opponent's side of the field. And you can actually just play Mage Infiltrator as well, index. It's a really cool card, honestly. I really like this. Alright, here we have Decoy Cavalry. Damage self by 3, devotion spawn an operative on the opposite row instead. Wait, this is a syndicate card. Am I seeing this right, or is the sun in my way here? What's the hell? What the hell? Why is this I'm guessing you mistakenly put this as a syndicate card? Because it's clearly a Nilfgaard card for like the idea you're doing. Yeah, I mean, sure. Wait, if it's a syndicate card, you just play next to Sucrus, right? That'd be broken, right? But yeah, I like, okay, sure. Like, it's pretty nuts with the operative, though, because I think what you're trying to say with the devotion is that it doesn't damage itself, but spawns the operative on the other row, which would make this card actually quite good, especially in that operative deck. I really love operative, man. Clock Nilfgaard, that's the future, boys. Just play Clock Nilfgaard and just win every game because you're just clogging them and play Masquerade Ball at the same time. That seems pretty dumb. Oh, you could also play... Oh, bro, you can clog with Ramon as well. Holy moly, you can play this with Ramon and just clog. Just keep clogging. Never stop clogging. Wow, that seems kind of ridiculous, honestly. Alright, here we have High Profile Elimination. It's a gold card for 5 provisions. If you at least have 1 unit on board, destroy an enemy unit and split damage randomly among your units equal to that power. Okay. Wait, what? That's a 0-point card then, right? What damage, though? I'm guessing the damage of the unit destroyed? Split damage randomly. There's not... See, guys, you should... Can you guys please read the card text before you submit these cards? Because this makes no sense. Like, what damage is being split randomly? Because if you're splitting the damage of the card that you've destroyed, you've played a 0 Tempo Destroy a Unit card, right? Like, 0 Tempo Destroy Unit is so bad. Just play Invo for 9 provisions. It does the same trick, but it puts it into your deck. Like, why would I ever play this card? This makes no sense. Dolk de Navarrete. Deploy ranged. Choose a Dubhen card from your deck and replace it with one of the cards in your hand. Okay, so this is like a good mulligan card. The Dubhen cards were all the cards earlier, I'm guessing, with all the operative nonsense. It's a 6 power mulligan a card for another card. I mean, you sort of have the game plan, right? You just need the game plan, and this helps your game plan. You could just play Oneiromancy, right? Like, why would I just not play Oneiromancy? I guess for devotion. I guess you need devotion sometimes. I'm not sure if this is a... I'm guessing this is a Nilfgaard card. I don't think this makes any sense as a Syndicate card, because all the previous cards were Nilfgaard cards, right? So... yeah, I think as a Syndicate card, this doesn't make any sense, right? But yeah, it's like a 6-point, give you the card that you might need. I mean, this would probably see like a sort of a 7-point, 9 provision mulligan card. Like, I think at 6 it's too weak, but I think at 7, a card that lets you pretty much mulligan for whatever you want. I mean, it's just a bad Mata at that point then, though. I mean, it is a better Mata, but it's more limited than Mata. Yeah, no, this is bad. Alright, Dubhen Yonun. On turn end, damage the lowest enemy unit by 1. Death Blow, increase the damage dealt by 1. Oh, move to the other row and reset the damage counter. Why would I want to reset the damage counter? This is like Sihil, isn't it, though? This is a Sihil with a body. Like old Sihil. Like really, really old Sihil. Like, if this was a Syndicate card, it'd be good. I mean, this could just be in any faction, honestly. This could just be a neutral at this point. It is an interesting card, though. I'm not sure if it... I mean, it's not as broken as Sihil was back in the day. If you remember old Sihil, you'll know what I'm talking about. Because Sihil used to have a cooldown of 1 and not a cooldown of 2. So it could basically deal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. Like, the card was broken. Like, it was nuts. Like, now it can just go up to 5, I think. And, yeah, I mean, now it's kind of fine. The card's pretty bad, but it's still fine. So, yeah, but this is like a Sihil that you can interact with easier than Sihil because, you know, you needed Bomb Heaver for that. And for this one, you just need to kill it or, like, deal damage to it. But I guess in Syndicate, that's not... Actually, that's kind of hard. Like, you play this, like, after you played all your, like, Slice Seductresses that your opponent might have dealt with, and then... Like, he has to wait for this card. Like, he just has to. This card is just insane. But you have to play this early as well. It's a cool card. Actually, I think this is actually a pretty cool card. It might actually be seeing play in whatever faction this would be. So I'm not sure if it's Syndicate or not, but any faction would probably sort of try and play this card. It's just a good power play, honestly. I mean, it's just a good power engine. All right, here we have Guild Contractor. Now, I love the art on this card. Beautiful art with the river and the... This is a really cool card art, honestly. Probably my favorite one so far. So, deploy, place a bounty on an enemy unit. If it already has bounty, trigger it. Huh, that's a cool one. This one's pretty cool. This is like a Graydon. Oh, wait, this is a... I thought this was a special. Hold up. This is insane. I thought... Whoa, I thought this was a special card. Wait, this card's nuts. No. Buddy. What is this? Oh, when he says trigger it, I think he just gives you the coins. I don't think he destroys the unit. I think what you're intending to say is that it triggers the money that you get. And even then, that's really good. I thought this was a special at first, but then I saw the 5 power. Because this kind of felt like a special for some reason, but yeah, I feel like this is a pretty cool card. If it didn't destroy, it would be fine. If it destroyed, it'd be broken as hell, but I think you meant in the sense of like gain the coins that you would have gained through the bounty. And then you can kill the unit and gain the coins again. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright, Dupe Hen Novice. Deploy boost self by the base power of an enemy with bounty. This would have to be a gold card, right? At 5 provisions? Nah, that seems pretty good. Yeah, is it that good though? I actually don't know. It's good against monsters, but anything else is kind of like meh. Yeah, I guess it's okay. I maybe overreacted a bit, thinking about monsters. But everything else kind of, I mean, even against SK now with greatswords, that's pretty nuts. I guess the only factions that really don't struggle that much with it is like Skoyetal. They play quite mid-rangey. Northern Realms as well. Like the highest unit they play is like Viraxis or Baron. Or like Falibor, but that's not even that common. Oh, Elephant, I guess. Yeah, Elephant, I guess. You can get some value off of Elephant with this. But you do need some setup for the card. And the setup should not be underestimated. The setup of the card is quite important to note. So, yeah, Duben Novice. Pretty okay card, though. Pretty okay. Alright, next up we have Duben Chonon. Deploy, damage the unit by 2. If that unit has bounty, damage it by 4 instead. If the unit you damaged was an allied unit, gain 4 coins. Okay, so, I mean, you can counter your own bounty, which is kind of funny. In the mirror, I guess. Guess you're never going to damage your own units, though. I mean, you can just damage like a 1-point unit and gain like 6 coins out of that. Oh, wait, 4 coins out of that, which is actually pretty good still. Because then you play like a 7 for 6? Yeah, that's actually pretty bad when you think about it. But still, I mean, the first ability is the one you want to see, obviously. Like, damaging a bounty unit by 4, like this plays for an 8 for 6 with removal. That gives you 4 coins, mind you, so... Yeah, this is nuts, right? This is like Mutant Killer, but way better. Yeah, this is an insane Mutant Killer. Like, Mutant Killer is trash. And this is insane, like... There's a huge disparity between those two. Alright, Dupen Taskmaster. Deploy. Gain coins equal to the amount of number of Dupen units you control. Fee 2, damage a unit by 1, and give it bleeding for 1 turn. Every third time you use Fee ability, lock and damage it by 2 instead. Huh, that's interesting. I like this sort of... Wait, that's a cool mechanic, actually. Like, using a Fee for like a 3rd time, which rewards you for... being good with coins, like keeping your coins, kind of greedy with the coins, spending them efficiently through this way. I don't think this card's that great. I mean, the card's pretty nuts, when you think about it. Because you gain coins to the Dupen cards, and I guess you got a lot of Dupen cards on your side of the field. And you got a good spender, I guess, as well, which is okay. But then, like, that last text is just good, right? Because it's already interesting, the faction itself, but that would give it, like, so much spice. Like, the 3rd time you use the Fee, like, it would have to have, like, a timer on the Fee ability. And then it would activate, like, a super Fee ability. It's like Horde on steroids. Yeah, it's basically like Horde. Kind of cooler, I think. Because you have to sort of think a few turns ahead, right? With this sort of thing. Like, how you want to manage your coins, how many coins you want to have, how many coins the card will give you. That seems pretty cool, honestly. Like, the card seems pretty powerful. Wicked Sneak Thief. Deploy. Spend all of your coins and boost self by the same amount. Order, place a bounty on an enemy unit. Okay, so... yeah, this is a pretty bad card, right? Wait, this is so bad. Why would you play this card? This is so anti-synergy with the whole bounty archetype. Like, you have Witch Hunter, which is a 4-point card which gives bounty to a unit. It doesn't give you any coins, but it gives you the ability to give bounty to something. This spends all your coins, which you might have needed for the bounty, and then can give a unit bounty without any sort of extra points. It just spends all your coins, regardless of what happens. This is a 2-point give bounty. This is god-awful. What the hell? Get out of here. Next up we have Velguard, Syndicate, Elf Mage. Okay. Deploy. Destroy an enemy unit with a bounty. Then spend all of your coins to split damage randomly among all enemy units equal to the number of coins spent. Tribute 1, cancel the second effect. Okay. So you destroy an enemy with bounty and spend all the coins to split damage randomly among all enemy units equal to the number of coins spent. Wait, what? I think the wording on that second sentence is a bit weird. I'm guessing you just destroy a unit with bounty and then just split the damage randomly, which seems like a pretty powerful play, honestly. Yeah, this seems pretty cool. I like it. Not sure what the second effect fully intends to do, but that's what I'm guessing. So just like, okay, you kill a 4-point unit that has bounty, then you gain the 4 coins, and you split 4 damage randomly. Now, I'm not sure if you spent those coins as well. Yeah, then you spend all your coins. Yeah, okay. Alright, here we have Council of Yonuns. Deploy. Choose a gang tag. All units on your side of the board in hand and deck receive that tag. What's the point of this? Isn't the idea with gangs is to have as diverse of a gang as possible? I mean, there's probably a card that synergizes with this somehow later on, probably, but as it stands right now, I don't see a point of this card existing. And then we have Undercover Bard. Boost all allies from a gang of your choice. There you go. There's the card that I was looking for. The card that synergizes with the previous cards that I reviewed and didn't know why it exists. And then I look like a complete ass because the next card extremely precisely explains why the previous card is good. And the previous card is a lot better now with this card. The tempo, though, is pretty weak. You're playing a 8 points for a whooping 13 provisions, but you're getting a lot of carryover with this, and you can play this twice because this is a bronze card. At 1 power, it's so bad though. It is really bad at 1 power, like really bad, really bad, like super low tempo. You'd have to play this on like red coin, but if you don't have red coin, this card becomes really awkward. It's just a 1 power play, and all the like carryover might help you in the round, but I don't know. Alright, next up we have COVID Nuzda. Interesting name. Deploy. Give poison to all poison. Oh my god! I'm sorry I didn't finish reading that. Let me just read that again. Deploy. Give poison to all. Oh my god! What is this? Bro, are you dumb? That's broken. Get out of here. Alright, then we have a Northern Realms card. Duke Mist Airy. Zeal. Order randomly give shield, poison, veil, doomed, spying, or resilience to a unit. On turn start, refresh this ability. Oh, this is interesting. Hold up. This is kind of crazy. This is pretty dumb. Like, this is so memey. Oh my god, this is like so memey. But I would love for a card like this to exist in the game. It's so memey. And it gives you like 2 good ones. The good ones being, actually 3 good ones. Like you have Shield, Veil, and Resilience, which you might want. The other one, Poison, Doomed, and Spying, are kind of awkward. This card is like, you're basically praying to Jesus against Nilfgaard. But imagine you like pull off like a triple Resilience with this card. Like how broken would that be? Alright, next up we have Geralt Merciless. Deploy, give an enemy unit Rupture. If this is the only card on destroy it instead. Oh yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Like, Rupture is, I'm guessing, old Rupture. Even if it has new Rupture, it wouldn't be that terrible because of its second ability. This is like Geralt Professional, but I think a bit more coin flip abusey. That's a word, I guess, but yeah, it's more coin flip abusive for sure. Because like opponents might have to actually play around this card quite frequently if this card existed. This is actually like a meta shaping card, honestly. Like people would have to play around this card because people will probably just play it in some of their decks just to coin flip abuse, which wouldn't make sense obviously, but it's also pretty useful against certain decks that just like to play engines most of the time. But it could also be kind of bad. But yeah, then it just gives Rupture if the second ability isn't met, which still could be okay, I guess. Yeah, not a bad card, honestly. I like it. Alright, then we have Bounded by Fate, a spell. Bind 2 units with Fate. Fate. Whenever a unit with Fate is destroyed, destroy the unit that was connected with it. Oh. Damn. That seems kind of broken, you know? You put this on a 1 and like a high point unit. It's awkward with defenders, though. You would need an answer for defender, but you play this as a neutral, right? So you have like... Oh, that's actually kind of crazy. This card might kind of... Oh, wow. This is like a really nutty card. This is kind of like a... This is not really a Gwent card, though. This seems more like a mana-based card game card than it is for something like Gwent, because it's way too impactful for a round. It has too much impact on the game, I feel like. Yeah, this is just too much impact on certain games. It could be awkward in other games, but the existence of the card itself makes design space very awkward, I think. But you never know. But it's a very interesting effect, don't get me wrong. It just feels a bit too easy, right? Because then you can just bind like a low power unit and a big power unit, kill the low power unit, and boom, the big power unit's also gone. So it's like a poison on sort of like... It's like, I guess it's just a poison, which is sort of better, because you can take out like 2 units at once. And you don't really need to commit like much to kill both. Except you have to obviously commit this card then. And here we have Mr. Driffin, Human Otaku Knights Aristocrat Soldier. Deploy, destroy all Skellige units and boost all Nilfgaardian units by 1. Alright, so this was clearly made by a man playing during the Skomegalol times. Because, you know, these are still kind of old. Most of these posts that I'm reacting to, so... Yeah, kind of irrelevant these days with NR roaming supreme. So, yeah. Funny, I guess. Alright, here we have Jormungandr. Deploy. Boost self by the number of allied beast units and boost self by 1 whenever you play a beast. Or to destroy an enemy unit of the same power. Okay. That's interesting. So, yet again, you have to specify what beasts it boosts itself by. I'm guessing for this one, it's the amount of beasts you have on your field. And then you can play multiple extra beasts. This seems pretty crazy, right? Now, the thing is, with this order ability, the way it's worded actually seems balanced, right? Because you would need this to be sort of like a card that has to be sort of mathematical. Because, like, if it says destroy an enemy unit of the same power or lower, the card would be busted, right? The card would be absolutely insane. Like, the opponent has to answer this, and then some other thing can go through. Because it's an engine, and it's a power play, it's a control tool. It's actually insane, right? But with the order being the exact number, it kind of takes away that value of that second ability being a bit too broken. But it still kind of seems a bit too broken, this whole thing, right? Yeah, this whole thing just seems a bit broken. Yeah. It's just broken. It's just broken. Alright, we have a Skirtle card. Reordain. Deploy, boost adjacent units by 1 and give them army. Devotion, boost self by 1 and apply army 3 to self. Note to Habla. I would then add a unit tag to the following cards. The Great Oak, Ellerin, Isengrim, Yavin, Dolbothana, Sentry. Army. Every card that has Unity as one of their tags will count this card as 2 cards or the specified amount. Okay, so I've read this like 4 times. And I'm guessing the idea is that cards like Ellerin, which would summon itself when you have 5 elves, would then summon herself when you have 3 elves. And cards like Great Oak will basically get 2 extra cards, like an extra card, for their damage on the row, basically. So it has a higher ceiling. Isengrim as well, and Yavin as well, and Dolbothana Sentry as well? Wait, what does Dolbothana Sentry do? The movement card? What does that do? I don't know what Dolbothana Sentry does in this case, but sure. But yeah, I'm guessing that's what you mean by this card. So the math on the card is like it plays for 7, and it gives you technically 2 extra units, and it itself counts as 3 units, I think. Which is pretty nuts, honestly. It actually doesn't seem that bad, to be fair. Like, Isengrim would boost these units extra, I'm guessing, then. So that would make Isengrim a lot more useful. Maybe even like... Oh, something like Vernacia with Unity would be broken as well, right? You give like the Elven Deadeyes army, and it just goes off, right? With the Vernacio. That seems pretty cool. I mean, it's an interesting mechanic. I can't really evaluate it point-wise, though. It's an interesting mechanic, though, definitely. Definitely better than the previous army mechanic that we had. So yeah, I like this a lot more. It works really well with Squirtle as well. Chiradan. Harmony. Deploy. Boost all units with Harmony by 1. Whenever you control units with 4 or more unique primary tags, summon this unit from your graveyard to a random allied row. Okay. So, it's like a Crow Mother that works better with like Harmony and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's okay. Like, it's a good like finisher, round 1 for Harmony, for sure. And then it also gives you carryover, but you obviously want to have this card early on. Giving it the Harmony tag doesn't really do much. Is it inferior to something like a Beckenbauer at 10 provisions? I think so, honestly. Barnabas is pretty broken when you think about it with Harmony. So I'm not sure. Could definitely see this getting played, though, in certain decks. And you have King of the Wolves. Thrive, Zeal, Order Melee. Damage all allied units with Thrive by 1. Then damage an enemy unit by the number of allied units with Thrive. Order, range, damage all allied units with Thrive by 1, then boost an allied unit by the number of allied units with Thrive. This is a really interesting effect, actually. Because you play this, like, early on. With Endrega Larva, you deal damage to the armor anyway. And in general, when you deal damage to Thrive units, at 5 power with this king, he just plays for a good amount of points that deals damage, right? Because the Thrive procs again after being damaged. It's the same way that Forktail works, right? Because Forktail, you damage all units by 1. But if you have Thrive units, your units don't really have a downside of getting damaged because they will thrive again. So that's why King of the Wolves is pretty good. It's a pretty cool card, actually. I like the design of it, that's for sure. Here we have Alba Armored Cavalry. Deploy melee, lock an enemy unit. Now you could say this is the same card, but it's Alba Armored Cavalry with actual armor. Praise the Lord. We actually have armor on Alba Armored Cavalry. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. Alright, next up is Scam Van Der. Deploy, lock an enemy beast. Order seize a locked enemy beast. Come on, dude. What is this binary-ass design? Oh, I'm playing Northern Realms. Let's just hope every matchup I play is against beasts. And they can't deal 2 damage. Get out of here. Foot Soldier, Human, Zeal, Order. Swap positions with an allied unit on the battlefield. Jesus Christ, that's bad. Holy crap. Why would anyone ever play this card? No, get out of here. Oh, look, the guy even gave it a buff. Still garbage, though. Still garbage. Alright, here we have King Hansel. Deploy. Promote 2 adjacent gold cards. Gold cards cannot be targeted or countered by its effect. When a gold card is being targeted by special cards, demote it. When King Hansel leaves the battlefield, demote all gold cards. Promotes, turn a bronze card into a gold card without changing it. Wait, what? What's the point of that? And why does it promote 2 gold cards? Why is the ability to promote 2 adjacent gold cards when the effect of promote works with bronzes? You guys and your wording sometimes, man. I know a lot of you don't have English as your primary language, but come on, guys. What am I supposed to say to this? I'm just gonna be a douchebag and say this is just poorly worded and I have no idea how to evaluate this card. Wait, that's exactly what I'm gonna say. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, The Fall. Deploy. Choose 1. Play 2 random bronze boats of your deck. Play a boat of your deck. Bloodthirst 3. Play 2 bronze boats of your discard pile. Mate, that's crazy. That's broken. Wait, what? That's nuts. 9 provisions? For that? Count me in. That's insane. Jesus. Whoa. That's broken. You can play Wildboar of the Sea with this as well? You can tutor Wildboar of the Sea with a 9 provision artifact? Yeah, give me that. Put that in my deck, baby. Put that in my deck. Alright, here we have Goodbye, Deflector, choose one. Seize a Pog off. Give immunity to the person below. Transforms into Homie below and play it. Alright, what's Homie below? Homie below, choose one. Destroy the opinion above or pass the post above to the homie below. Every time I make a custom card review, I think, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna look at some great cards, interesting design, and then I see this and I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? Brokvar Warriors, veteran, deploy, damage an enemy unit by 2, and then one behind it by 1. One behind it. How does it know which one's behind it? The one behind it. So it's restricted to the melee row. On veteran in round 3, this plays for 4 plus 2, so 6 plus 1, 7 for 5. That's terrible. Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, it would have to be 3 power. If it's 3 power, it's actually decent. It's not terrible at 3 power for sure, but it's 2 power, so it's not that good. All right, power chords. Boost all bandits by 2. Unity, boost all bandits in deck, hand, and battlefield by 2. Unity, if your starting deck has only neutrals. Okay, that makes sense, right? So this is pretty good with bandits. It's anti-synergetic with Olgierd Immortal, but apart from him, I think all the other ones should benefit off of this card. Yeah, sure. Cool card. I like it. And here is the last card of this card review. My battery for the laptop is slowly running out. I think I only have like 5 more minutes, so I'm just gonna end it here with the lesson with which we already started it. So that's pretty cool. We start with the lesson, we end with the lesson, and see what this one does. Order ranged, damage the 3 lowest enemy units by 1, cooldown 3. Whenever an allied unit is destroyed, decrease the cooldown by 1. Pretty cool. Yeah, I like this. So yeah, this is really good. I like that. Like, it has to go around, like, armor, but it's pretty hard to kill at 7. And then it works kind of with consumes as well. I think the previous one also kind of worked with consumes, which is kind of funny. Not sure if it was the same person who uploaded the first one. But yeah, this is an interesting effect. Definitely one that you might see in the future. Something like this. Like a pretty hard engine for sort of consume that the opponent might have to deal with. You just play like round 1 and just try and win the round with it, or like round 3 just to have it as your main engine and then just work with that. The problem is, obviously, when I set this card up, like, it's a pretty slow setup. Like, you have to wait for your opponent to play like 2 cards and then you play this card. So you've already lost like a few turns on your cooldown ability, and then you have to set up your like sort of consume cards as well. But you do play this with Haunt, I guess, and all the consume and like Ruahin nonsense to sort of work with it. And yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, that's it's an okay card. It's not the greatest. I don't think it's gonna be competitive if it came out, but it's definitely a fun card and would work with consumes quite interestingly. And yeah, that was custom card reviews number 3. I will be doing this more often, obviously. We have so many more suggestions, so many more submissions on the Discord. Every time I upload one of these, like 100 new ones come in. It's really hard to keep up with you guys. And I can't do that many in one episode as well. It really, really strains my voice. Like, my voice is actually dying right now because I'm just constantly talking, constantly like trying to be as precise and analytical as possible about everything. And yeah, I hope you'll excuse me if a lot of these episodes just cover like cards that were submitted by like 5 people. But I still hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe for more Gwent content, and I'll see you after the holidays. Bye bye.